Destination mark.
Hello, hey guys, how's it going? Marcelo here. It's been a while. Welcome back to the Bandicast. Big 30, as we're calling this one. Big 30. Celebrating 30 years of the Crash series. I can't believe we're at 30. So, in bringing this back, I wanted this guy on for a while. With me today, today's guest for the first guest of Big 30 will be Travis the Dragon. Hello, how's it going?
Hello, Mark. I am really happy to be here.
Yay! I don't really have much of a list, a starting list right now, but I knew I wanted you at the top of the list for Big 30. How do you feel about Crash turning 30?
I feel weird because I remember 10 years ago when Crash was announced as a playable character in Skylanders Imaginators, like almost 10 years ago. And I was like, damn, that was a decade ago. Man, I feel old.
I know. That E3 announcement's also about to turn 10 in a couple months. That it's like every time a decade passes, it's like it takes a while before you truly feel it. You know what I mean? Um, and with us being like in the mid 2020s, it's really weird because I'm still of the mindset that like the late 2000s, like the early 2010s was like some, 10, 15 years ago. No, no. A lot of those games, GameCube might as well be retro at this point. And that's really sad to think about.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. Um, okay, so we got some questions here. I've changed up the last question a little bit for this little, let's say, I don't know, portion, part, celebrating the 30th anniversary specifically for the podcast. So the last question will be different from what I usually ask, but the other questions will be largely the same. So starting with, what is your history with Crash? When did you first get into the series, and what was the first Crash game you ever played, if you can remember?
Uh, for my history with Crash Bandicoot, it's kind of different from my history with Spyro because unlike Crash Bandicoot, I actually had a childhood with Spyro, and
Mm-hmm.
I had like I guess I can call it a teenagehood with Crash Bandicoot because I hadn't even heard of Crash until I was like maybe 11 or 12 years old when I was roaming around the internet, and that was the first time I ever found out bandicoots existed apparently. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I guess I didn't really play any Crash games until I was maybe 14 years old when I finally decided to just get one. So the very first Crash game I ever got was, of all things, Twin Sanity.
Oh, that's a good starter. Nice.
Yeah.
um, that far in, and with like just the wacky feel it had, like I guess what were your like immediate thoughts on that game? Were you just like, is this what all of them were like, or were you just like, what is this music? Like, what were your kind of like, if you can remember again that far back, like what were your first thoughts on Twin Sanity?
Um, it's hard to recall what my first thoughts were. I just kind of looked at the gameplay and I thought it was interesting. So I decided to just make that my first Crash experience. Um, I never beat it, unfortunately,
Oh
but
man.
yeah, I could see why people are really passionate about the game. Not that I'm the biggest fan of Twin Sanity myself.
Mm-hmm. Uh, are there like any? Let's see, like. Well, okay, so having like a good first experience through Twin Sanity, was there anything? Could you like feel like how like unpolished it was?
Well, I could kind of feel it here and there. I think it was because I was playing the PS2 version. I don't know what the Xbox version was like.
Oh, me neither, actually. Were both? Did one version come out before the other, or did both the PS2 and Xbox versions come out simultaneously? I'm actually not sure. If I had a guess, I think they both came out simultaneously. Um,
Yeah, I think they came out simultaneously too.
from a regional standpoint, uh, something happened with like the Japanese and UK versions because if anything, the glitches that you come across, some of the weirder like sillier ones, um, I know in our version you have to kind of like make them happen. You have to go out of your way to trigger them. But then there are some like okay, Rusty Walrus like turning around and like running back the way he came, or like Evil Crash like spinning around in place. Like those are happening in main parts of the game, and like those glitches don't happen in our version. They're, or if they do, it's extremely rare. They happen more so in those other regional versions, and so I'm wondering like how did that happen?
Yeah,
But no, Twin Sanity was a very good start, I would say. For me personally, I started at the very beginning. It was like the first game I can remember playing when I was like at 2 or 3. I used to strictly say 2 years old, but I don't want to like, I can't fact check that, so I'm going to assume it was like around 2 or 3 years old. But as far back as I can remember, being able to pick up a controller and play a video game, it was Crash.
yeah.
Because Spyro, I played the demo first. I experienced Spyro 1 through the PlayStation Underground demo, and then I played the full first game later. Um, but going that far in toward Twin Sanity, that was like 9 years into the series lifespan, and I really like Twin Sanity for like how different it is because and I guess too it was like something of a palate cleanser for a lot of people from Wrath of Cortex, even though for me personally I have a soft spot for it. Wrath of Cortex was the first PS2 game I ever got, and I remember that Christmas too because my mom surprised me with my very own PS2, and that was the game that she got with it. um so I don't care what anyone says. I like Wrath of Cortex, but Twin Sanity just had such a different vibe. And in doing that 20th anniversary retrospective a couple years back, it was really cool to hear everyone's uh, story with the game. And for that video too, I really wanted to make sure I got as many people from that era specifically to say something, even just something small, that I could, because like there was no way I could make a video like that and not include Beta M or HP Zoner or and I got like I got a bunch of people in there, and I'm really proud of that.
Yeah. So back to my history with Crash. So
Yes.
I didn't really properly get back into the franchise until Crash was announced for Imaginators,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Insane trilogy was announced, and that's when I decided to try out the original games to prepare myself for the Insane trilogy, and I guess that's when I started getting into Crash Bandicoot, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah, that's awesome. Uh, are there any games that you've missed so far? Are there any of the Game Boy games or like any of the PS2 era games you actually haven't played, or have you played them all?
Um, well, I've actually have played them all briefly on my PS2 emulator.
Oh, nice, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that actually leads really nicely into the next question. Of all the Crash games you have played, even if it's just for a little bit, which one can you say is your favorite, and what are your favorite aspects about him?
Hmm. It's kind of a tough call, but I would say it's a tie between Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled and Crash Bandicoot 4.
Okay.
Um, at least at least from a standard gameplay standpoint.
Yeah.
Because let's see, if I were to choose which one I would prefer, I would say Nitro Fueled. And I honestly don't know why I'd consider it my favorite. I just think it's the most fun to play out of all the Crash games. But In regards to mainline Crash, I guess if we're talking about different timelines, then Crash Bandicoot 4 probably would take the cake. Not only does it have the most interesting gameplay and some of the best level designs, but also uh, what I consider one of my favorite art directions ever. And that's because I'm a big fan of Spyro Reignited. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, Toys for Bob's art style is what influenced my own art style.
Yeah, that's awesome. Toys for Bob's art style is really interesting to go through, especially when you take a look at their history. Um, because it seems from back when they did Pandemonium that like that really wacky style was like kind of always there, and I really wanna know like retroactively. I want to go back and see like who were the lead designers and stuff for like some of the earlier Skylander games because I remember if you know my history, you know me. I really, there was a while there where I really did harp on Skylanders for many different reasons. Um, and I remember a lot of the character designs I just didn't like. Not even just Spyro. Spyro was my biggest one that I had an issue with, but everyone else, I'm just like, okay, some designs here are really cool. Other ones are like just really weird looking. But even in the Skylanders line of games, you can see the art style of like even the environments and everything, the environmental design, and even the characters themselves to varying degrees. In my opinion, personally, got really good, like better, noticeably better by like the last one, even though that one wasn't technically them. But as Skylanders has gone on as a series, it's only six mainline games long. Uh, Taking what Toys for Bob established and then like going from there, you can see the evolution. Going into Spyro, you can see Reignited specifically. You can see too how much they kind of really acknowledged the architecture and the design and everything of like the look of the older games and tried to like modernize it. And there's times where I think they probably made weird little choices here and there in Reignited, like visually, but and not even like about the character designs, but mainly for like the environments and stuff. But then you go into Crash 4 and it's like, "Oh, this is like even further than what they did with Reignited." So like it just keeps evolving. And with Crash 4, I feel like they've hit this very fine balance of like their own traditional kind of style and then like really making Crash feel like the cartoons it was inspired by. And it everything from like the characters to the environments, mainly in the characters animations and stuff, you can totally tell like it's the most expressive they've ever been, it's the most extreme they've ever been designed. um it's really fun. Like Crash 4 visually is a treat, and it really is a bit of a damper that like a lot of those artists aren't really there anymore. A lot of them were freelance anyway. They weren't really working directly like at Toys for Bob, But
Yeah.
I do when we see whatever they're working on next, whatever it may be, I do really want to see them evolve even beyond Crash 4 because what we saw for Crash 5 looked really cool, and it looked like that did look like the next big step up. Um, and as far as Nitro Fuel goes too, being your favorite, uh, while it's not like a platformer Crash, I think the reason I could see being why you like it so much, as many others do, because for me personally, it we didn't. I don't think anyone knew it was going to go. Be enough to take it as far as they did with that initial announcement trailer at the Game Awards, just being like, "Hey, it's CTR and there's some C and K content too," and that's like all we thought it was going to be. And if it was just that, that would have been fine. For me personally, I'll speak for myself personally. I wasn't expecting them to go so above and beyond. Like I remember just wanting online multiplayer, which they confirmed, and I was like, okay, cool, sick. I get to play with everyone, online. That's awesome, and we could do streams out of that, which we've done, of course. Um, but then they just kept going with those Grand Prix. They were like, oh, by the way, here's Spyro. Tawna's back. Here's Baby T. Here's like every Grand Prix is themed. Oh, by the way, Rillaroo, the CTTR characters, the Chicken Stew are there as commentators. Like, they just kept going. and even going as far as doing little things like little memes, like having the freaking metal crate, the metal checkpoint, iron checkpoint crate, be a character, or like turning Fasty into Hasty. And Fasty, I found out later, that wasn't even like he wasn't even meant to be a CTR character as we previously thought. He was just part of a concept of something else that was lumped into the CTR stuff by accident. But they still took what they believed to be that history and like built on it, and we got a cool new original character out of it. So like they really went above and beyond and married like all three of those previous kart racers into one, and like just took the best of all of them, and it celebrates even down to like the decals and the other little things and the skins and everything. There's a lot in there that's very subtle, and if you're a Crash fan, you know it. You'll see Beach Coco has her hair down like in Titans, or um, little things like that. You know, having like Evil Crunch or whatever, and it's the NV from Mind Over Mutant. Like they didn't have to do that, but it was cool to see those elements come back, especially from that era, because a lot of people, you know, they didn't really like Titans or Mind Over Mutant, but I feel they're underappreciated. But that was cool.
Yeah. If there's anything I respect the developers the most for, it is the fact that they did a lot of homework for these games.
Yeah, no, for sure. It shows. It shows a lot.
Mhm.
Well, on the complete opposite of the spectrum, which Crash game that you've played is your least favorite, and what aspects about whatever that game is make it your least favorite?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because I have played at least some of the Crash games, and it's kind of hard for me to determine which one is my least favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I got nothing.
I was gonna say, I was gonna say too. Like, if that's too broad of a question, then is there a Crash game in recent memory you can remember not having as much fun with? It doesn't have to be so like I wouldn't say negative, but so like critical. But if there was one that you felt like this one's not as fun as the others I've played, like, do you have one like that?
Um, Not entirely sure. I'm trying to think of some games that I at least tried to have some semblance of fun with, like let's see, Tag Team Racing and Wrath of Cortex, because the latter is, of course, one of the most infamous ones.
Yeah, the ones a lot of people tend to go to are like, yeah, Wrath of Cortex. Of course, a lot of people go to Boom Bang. that's the, that's the, that's public enemy number one right there. Whenever I ask this question, sometimes
Oh
it
yeah.
might be Titans or something, but not usually with who I've had on before. But once in a while, they might be like, yeah, Titans wasn't that great. But yeah, maybe like ports. Have you played it? Have you played any of the Game Boy ones? Like, not necessarily like Huge Adventure, but like Game Boy or DS versions of like Titans or like something like that.
Oh, I did play Titans on the Game Boy Advance briefly, and I didn't have a good time with it.
I've never touched those ports or those versions, I guess you should say, because already having the console versions, I was like, those ones are fun. Why do I need to play a version on a smaller console? Even though finding out that there were many like plot differences and like there's a lot of weirdness with like specifically I'm gonna call out Titans, like I think GBA or DS, whichever one it was, if not like the both of them, um for being weird. Like there's something about like at the end, like they turn into babies or something, or like one of them has like a laugh track after every joke, like it's a sitcom, and I'm like, what? Why? Why was this necessary?
Would you believe me if I told you that this was literally the first time I ever heard of that?
Really? Yeah, no, it's weird, dude. I don't know why they decided to do that. Like, the plot of, I forget which version it is, it might be the DS version, because I remember the look of it being a little, like, graphically better than what Game Boy graphics would look like. But in that version, the story's slightly different, where, like, I think Cortex is still building the Dominator, but he captures, like, I think Aku and, like, a couple other mask characters that were completely new for that game only. These weren't elementals, and there weren't even precursors to like the Quantum Mask or anything like that. They were completely new mask characters. I don't recall them having names. They might have, but I only watched the cutscenes. Um, I don't think Cortex really does much with them in the end. And then yeah, like Nina shows up, and I forget exactly how it goes down, but they all turn into babies, or one of them does, like Crash or Nina. Somebody turns into a baby. That's all I remember, and it's so goddamn random. I'm just like, uh, okay. I don't know. So
I don't know either.
when I heard that and I saw that, I was like, yeah, nah, no, I'm good. I'm good with not touching that. I don't need
I
to.
don't blame you.
The console versions I feel of Titans and all that like are already so fun. To me, they're fun. Uh, a lot of people will say, some people will say this. I think is really weird. Well, they'll go, well, okay, you know what? I'll give it this. It was a good game, but not a good Crash game. And I'm like, why is it not a good Crash game? Because it has elements of past Crash stuff in it. It's just they recontextualize a lot of Crash staples and they put focus more so on like the newer stuff you could do, like taking control of the Titans, or it being a beat 'em up game, like Crash being able to punch and kick, like that was, and having like a bunch of cool moves you can combo into, like that was of course completely brand new for the series. And as far as experimenting with that kind of gameplay goes, I think it was pretty fun. I don't think they half-assed it. I don't think they like. If anything, there could have been more potential with that if given the chance. But the problem is, fans don't like that, and they'll never give it the chance to like have something more like that in terms of gameplay, which kind of sucks because it was a very experimental era.
I think the reason they didn't like the change that was made for the Titans era was because fans, to my understanding, just don't really like any form of change. And I've dealt with people who really cannot stand any semblance of change in the Crash Bandicoot franchise.
Yeah, man, it really sucks too because if people were a little more lenient on how they felt about the series doing certain things, like we could have had, I feel, games that could have done a lot of cool stuff. And I remember before Crash 4 was ever even a thing, or at least before we knew about it, I remember making a video saying, like, people wanted a true Crash 4, a true Spyro 4, because they don't, they dislike, dare I say, they hate Wrath of Cortex and Enter the Dragonfly so much, they don't even regard them as, like, we don't talk about those ones. And I'm just like, yeah, I get it, but it gets tiring after a while for you guys to just keep hating on it and not like even try to find something remotely fun about it or whatever. To the point where, again, before ever knowing Crash 4 was going to be a thing, I was like, I made a video where I'm like, why don't we get a new game where they just really try to like do new things with the formula? Because, but maybe not so much like so different the way turned it into a beat 'em up, but like start out small. Like keep it platforming, but like maybe do a Twin Sanity thing where like it's kind of more open, but then like maybe make it a co-op multiplayer thing and bring in like Coco or someone, or and that's kind of what Mind Over Mutant did, sort of. Um, I mean, even Titans was kind of like that with Carbon Crash, but I was trying to. I thought having like the first three games, having Wrath of Cortex, even counting Twin Sanity, of course it's a platformer. We already have these. There's already a formula there, and for me, I was like, I'm not sure how much more can be done with that formula. So let's like maybe try to do some new things, like reintroduce new things again.
So I actually had some ideas for if Crash 5 was ever allowed to be made, and like um, if I were in charge of Crash 5,
Yeah.
let's say we keep the concept it was going for with adding Spyro into the game and have both Crash and Spyro playable at the same time, where the player can switch between them at the same time, and both their gameplay styles can be balanced out. Like Crash can be stronger than Spyro, and Spyro can be more mobile and faster than Crash. Like, let's
Hmm.
say there's a platform that Crash can't reach, and Spyro has to glide to it in order to get a collectible or something like that.
Yeah. That's what it looked like, and um, that's the kind of news that I'm kind of talking about. When I saw those, pieces of art and stuff, I'm just like, oh my god, they were going to try and make something a little bigger in scale, something a little more complex in terms of the movement because you've got two unique characters with unique movesets. That was another question I remember having, like, more so like to myself a long time ago, hearing people again bash, Crash Purple and Spyro Orange, being like, hey, why don't we just? How come they never made a Crash Spyro platformer crossover? I remember going like, how would that work? They're so different. I mean, you can't have. I was thinking way too small. I'm like, you can't have like Spyro can do a linear platforming the way Crash can, and Crash has like dabbled in wider environments again with like Twin Sanity, but like his move set is so limited. It's not meant, at least in a very free flowing way the way Spyro is. Crash isn't meant to like explore these huge areas and stuff the way Spyro can, and the way the level design for Spyro is way different and more attuned to him being a dragon than Crash is to him being more uh, earthbound. He can't really, the only way he can be up in the air is if he's in a plane or something. And so I'm like, I don't know how that could work. And then this, drops and we see all the stuff that we're never going to get to play. And I'm like, well, damn, there it was right there. Like, holy crap. Uh, it it would have been so cool, man. Like just the right amount of change because you've got two of them in the same game, but in a platformer, and I think it could have been the first big step into doing something a little different with the both of them, and that philosophy, doing something a little different with the both of them, I think is still something that should be retained with whatever we get in the future. Just because, again, I feel like a lot of what I think, what I feel, and what I'm saying in this podcast, I think still kind of applies personally. Where like we have Crash 4, we have Reignited, we have the originals for both. Um, yes, we have to acknowledge them. We have Wrath of Cortex that does the same formula. We have Enter the Dragonfly, which does the same formula. We have Twin Sanity and Hero's Tale, which are small spins on that formula. But like they all follow very similar things for their respective franchises, so why not try to do something this far in, some 30 years in? Let's like start trying things that are a little different. Maybe not go so far to like reboot Spyro into something semi-serious again, or to spin Crash back into like, no pun intended, to spin him back into like beating things up again, but like just start small, and I feel like having this mash of worlds, which isn't even new, but the way they were going to do it was going to be so different and so unique. It would be cool if they could revisit that concept, although I don't think they're going to,
Oh
unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. It never hurts to experiment, and I've been studying the gameplay of Crash Team Rumble and the concept of Crash 5, and I can see how a potential Crash and Spyro crossover could have worked, if again, if it was allowed to be made. Because, like I said, I've been studying the gameplay of Crash Team Rumble, and like I have been thinking, like, what if the gameplay style could be something like that in Crash Bandicoot 5? But
Hmm.
of course, it is a platformer that that functions like Crash Team Rumble.
Yeah, and I wonder if Rumble. I mean, knowing now how Rumble and Crash 4 were kind of like conceptualized, and them coming out in the states that we know them in when they released, I'm wondering if Rumble, as they kept doing stuff for it, and especially, yeah, by the time Spyro came in, I wonder if before 5 was canceled officially, I'm wondering if that was like something of a small, subtle test to like. Well, I'm trying to think actually. I think the game was probably canceled around that time actually because a lot of the concept art that we ended up seeing, the full artwork for, they were turned into banners and stuff in Rumble. So that stuff has been released as some form of content in that game, but those little bits like Crash and Coco on Spyro coming out of the portal and like Crash going up and facing some Norks or whatever, uh, those were all concepts for Crash 5. So either they put that in as a teaser for their next game before we all that went down, or it had already went down and they were just, well, we have this stuff, so let's put it in Rumble. um, but I wonder if that was like sort of a test, having Crash and Spyro in these little arenas, and you can like actually move the camera around and stuff. Um, because Spyro feels pretty good in Rumble, and
Oh yeah.
and kind of tweaking Crash's stuff, and again having like more of a free roaming ish feel with the Crash 4 style and everything. Um, it felt good, and if they just refined it more and took it out of the you know PvP stuff setting, and then like brought that feel into a full blown platformer, it could have worked. It honestly could have worked. I feel,
I think so too.
and it's unfortunate. I look at like the little bits of footage where he's in like that money pit or whatever where he was gonna fight Tiny, and I'm just like, fuck. It looks so good. I want to play it, and like the story was like so huge, and like because some of the first concepts were like, oh, it's like almost like Psychonauts where you get to peer into like the villains mindscapes or whatever, and like Engine was gonna have like a normal face and everything and like no missile in his head, and I think they were actually gonna canonize Cortex's family of circus people, circus clowns backstory, um because there's art for that too, and they like made a whole, you actually get to see like Cortex's family because there's like, well, there was Hugh G Cortex, there was Sarah, was it Sarah Bella or Sarah Bellum, it was something like that, who looked like, I guess, Nina's mom. uh there were a bunch of characters like that that they drew up concepts for, and we're never gonna see them. It sucks. It's like the one time they were gonna go in depth with Crash's lore and
Yeah.
characters, we're not gonna see it now.
It's a shame that, it feels like such a waste when ideas just never get to see the light of day.
Yeah. uh I'm trying to think of any time. I mean, there are times. Again, Nitrofield did a good job of trying to retroactively add in as much as they could, or not even so much as Nitrofield. It was that and like Crash on the Run. Crash on the Run somehow managed to go even further and like bring in totally obscure characters and scrap characters with like the pink elephants from Twin Sanity that were supposed to be in Gonna Bit Coco, and Mr. Crumb from that 99X game. Like, no one thought they were going to do that. And the fact that they actually managed to pull that off, it kind of makes you go like, oh, I want to see Mr. Crumb like an actual platformer now. Like, flesh him out. Like, give him like a story or something. That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
Uh, so my next question is, what were you doing to fill the 8 year gap of, or technically 6 year gap of like no Crash games, as I call it, the hiatus. When we had from like 2010 to 2016, like no new Crash games. Were there any other franchises you tried to get into? Were there any other Crash games you kind of like found around that time? Did you just kind of stop thinking about Crash? Like, what was like, I guess, your gaming space or like sphere around the time where there was like no Crash?
Well, at the time, I hadn't even heard of Crash. While he was on that uh, nearly decade-long hiatus.
Oh, true, true.
I mostly just grew up with Spyro and licensed games that I grew up with, like SpongeBob, for example.
Nice, nice. Battle for Bikini Bottom, the movie game.
Yeah,
How
that
many?
one's the goat.
Yeah. Uh, what other kind of licensed games did you play? Beyond SpongeBob?
Um,
Was it like mainly Nick stuff or like?
what other kind of licensed games?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, sometimes it's Nickelodeon stuff. Other times it's mostly just uh Disney licensed games. The one that stands out to me the most was the video game adaptation of Wally, and the other one is Monsters Inc. Scream Team.
Oh, nice,
That
nice.
one's actually a classic.
Yeah, I mean, her relaxed that one. I remember watching her play it on stream once. It feels that one's like a platformer, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah, it is.
License. I'm trying to think of any licensed games I played around that time. Wally. I think we either we actually bought it or we rented it. I can't remember. What was it on? Was it like on Wii or was it on like GameCube and PS2? If you can remember.
Uh, I think they stopped releasing GameCube games at the time. But I definitely know it was on the Wii, the DS, the PlayStation 2 and PS3, and the PC and 360.
Okay, okay.
Um, the one I played first as a kid was the PS2 version, which is the one that I'm the most nostalgic for.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah, as far as the Pixar games go, oh my god, it's nothing to do with Crash, but I remember. I remember. Do you remember how like when a new movie, like a new animated film, would come out in theaters around that time? The game tie-in would come out like before the movie. Um, and I remember playing a bit of Incredibles when that came out. Again, we rented that one, and then Incredibles. What was it called? Something. Oh God, with the Underminer. Was it Revenge of the Underminer? What was it called? Do you happen to remember what that one was called?
I think it was the Rise of the Underminer or something.
Was it right? That you know what? That does sound correct. Rise of the Underminer. I think. Um, I remember some years after the first Incredibles movie released and that game had come out, that came out, and I was like, me being a little kid, I'm like, oh, is that like, are they making a new? Because I caught onto that trend, so I was like, oh, are they making a new Incredibles movie? Like, after all, the first one ends off with the Underminer, and so no, that's not what happened at all. I mean, we would see the
That
Underminer.
feeling when game
Yeah,
that feeling when game developers made Incredibles 2 before Pixar made an actual Incredibles 2.
yeah. He's at the beginning. He's in the beginning of that one, and then that one was that movie was weird.
Yeah.
it was it was fine. I liked it all right, but even around the time when I only ever Incredibles 2 as a concept only ever entered my mind. Like, we'll get back to Crash, I swear. Let me just go on this tangent real quick for anyone listening. um, as a concept, Incredibles 2, back then, I didn't have any huge expectations for that. I'm just like, oh, maybe it'll be as good or even better as the first one, than the first one. And then nothing happens between all that time, and then some, couple of years ago, they finally make it, and like, I guess everyone who loved the Incredibles one also wanted that sequel, and then it comes out, and it was just really strange. I guess it just wasn't really what we were expecting, and I don't know. It kind of ties into like the licensed game stuff. I thought it was really funny in hindsight that like it took so long for like an actual Incredibles 2 to come out, and then it was just like, oh, well, that was alright. SpongeBob games though for licensed stuff. I remember, yeah, Battle for Bikini Bottom, the movie game, uh, and licensed games based off of like the newest movies and stuff. That doesn't really happen as much nowadays, but like back when it did, um, Some of them were pretty solid. I didn't play a whole lot, but the ones I did like try out or rent or whatever, like they were fun for what they were worth. Uh, but I like specifically how Battle for Bikini Bottom became such a cult classic that not only did they remake it, then it led to like new SpongeBob games again because there was a giant gap where they just weren't really, again, like doing that with Heck Lice stuff, and now SpongeBob has like Cosmic Shake and Titans of the Tide, and like
That one is the goat.
I played the demo. I haven't played the actual game yet, but from the demo, I was like, oh, this feels good. It's smooth. It plays well. It looks great. The only thing, and I swear it's not going to become a SpongeBob tangent. The only thing is that you can hear the ages of the voice actors because the characters don't exactly sound quite the way they're supposed to. Or at the very least, Tom Kenny's SpongeBob is starting to get like a little deeper than it used to be. If you've ever noticed that.
Yeah, it is understandable considering they've been voicing the characters for over 25 plus years now.
Yeah, yeah. It's insane they can even still do the voices as strong as they can now. But I'm starting to hear in either the modern, cartoons, like the episodes, or like the movies or whatever, um, you can kind of hear their age now, and I think that's really funny. Um, but yeah, Titans of the Tide was like really, again, from just what little I played of the demo, it was really cool. But I remember trying to find new things to play around that time when Crash wasn't a thing for that short while. And I remember for a while, all my friends, I'm not sure if you had friends like this too, but all my friends in school would talk about Call of Duty and here's Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, and all this stuff. And they would, I don't know how you could talk about headshotting someone for hours on end. Like, it was insane. But that all that talk got me thinking, like, do I need to start playing those kinds of games? Because no one talks about platformers anymore. It was in that weird like PS3 era where there was just that shift. Like platformers weren't really much of a thing for a while. Like the only ones really doing it were like Ratchet and Mario. That was like Sly was starting to kind of end, and like Crash wasn't around, Spyro wasn't really around. Like after Legend, Skylanders happened. So um, I it was just really weird that that space for in my area and from for the people I was surrounded by, it was really weird because that was all they talked about was like Halo or Battlefield or call it some kind of shooter. And for a while there, I tried to kind of forget about Crash because I to the way the space was kind of flowing, it felt like that was too much of like a baby thing at the time. And I'm like, am I like, do I need to like start playing like more of those like shooters and stuff? And I remember trying because I remember going to GameStop and buying Modern Warfare 2 because that was the hotness at the time. And I tried playing it and I could not get into it. Like I would watch my friends. I would go to my friends' houses and watch them play. Um, I would usually decline when they wanted me to join them, but I tried playing for myself and I'm just like, nah, I can't. I can't. I tried getting my brother into it with me, and he like straight up was like, "This isn't fun," and I was like, "Yeah, no, this is how come I'm not feeling it? It's really weird." And of all the Crash games I could have possibly played, I was bored one day and I decided to pop one in. I hadn't played one in a while. I hadn't played Crash in a while. I decided to pop one of the Crash games in, and it made me go like, "Yeah, you know what? Fuck trying to be like part of the crowd and everything. Like Crash is still fun." Titans was the one that got me back into that. So take that to everyone that doesn't like Titans. It's the one that got me back into like, yeah, no, Crash is still fun. I screw it, man. Like whatever, they can have their shooters, and if that's what the space is going to be like for games, then I probably just won't buy games for a while. I'll stick with what I know. I'll stick with what I love, and that was Crash. That was Spyro. That was Pac-Man World, Rayman. I hadn't at that time. I hadn't played Jack and Daxter or anything like that yet, but Crash was my number one for ever, really, and it still kind of is.
Kind of the same reason Spyro's my number one.
Yeah, have you ever had like a feeling like that where you talk with friends and they're talking about like these vastly different games from what you usually play, but then you kind of go to yourself like, should I try those? Like, Am I in the wrong kind of space with what I'm playing? Like, should I try to play what my friends are playing? Like, have you ever had that before?
I don't recall. I don't remember having a lot of classmates at school who ever played the same games that I played as a kid. Like, as a couple of people mostly just talked about Mario or Sonic. One of my old school friends did actually introduce me into Sonic by showing me this Flash game called Sonic Ultimate Flash, which is not even official.
Oh,
Like that was my first ever exposure to Sonic.
that's still cool, actually. That's actually still really cool. Like getting into it through like fan stuff and like there's like little ROM hacks and things like that, sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually kind of cool. Sonic Space has like, as far as that goes, because there was what like Robo Blast that came out not too long ago, I think, or actually it's been in development. What like on and off for like a long time actually, but like getting that kind of a game to work how it does made me go like, oh wow, so you can have like the old school style, but you can kind of like modernize that, not in such like a generations way or anything like that, but like something about seeing like having the pure like 90s feel, trying to get as close to that, um and the art style as possible, but turning that into a 3D game. Because wasn't that running like out of the Doom engine or something like that? I think if I remember right, Roboblast like two, I think.
Oh yeah, Robo Blast too.
Well, I think it was running out of the Doom engine, and I'm like, yeah, it shows, but it looks really good. Um,
It has a lot of add-ons that make the game popular. It even has like Crash and Spyro mods supported.
oh, that's funny. Oh yeah, and having heavy mods in a Doom engine game that makes total sense because Doom itself has
Mhm.
like billions of mods, like whole like entire otherly games built out of like what Doom started as. But doing it with Sonic was like really cool.
Yeah.
It kind of makes me wish that people would have done that with like Crash. There aren't too many Crash fan projects. I mean, I've seen quite a few around. I've been seeing actually on like Twitter and stuff, and Blue Sky, like a lot of people who use Dreams, who make things in Dreams have been doing a lot of like fan stuff with Crash. I think it's actually kind of cool. There was one I saw recently that it looked amazing. Somehow it was like on some like Ratchet and Clank business where like it looked just cartoony enough, but like the lighting and like everything looked like so kind of like realistic in a way. And for Crash, that I mean, like Ensign kind of tried that, but however that dude got it going in like Dreams, it looked amazing. I was like, whoa, like it looks like it plays like Crash One. The Crash One influence was like definitely there, um, but the way it looked was totally unique, and
Yeah.
I would love to see more fan creations like that. The last thing I remember seeing was like Crystal's Wrath from Jump Button and Pat Strikes Back, which I think they've pretty much abandoned by this point because I haven't seen any updates for that. And obviously, Jump Button, did Anton Blast and he's doing other stuff now. But
I hear that Back in Time is a really good one.
oh yeah, oh I forgot about that. Yeah, um, that's the one with like its own levels, but you can make levels too, right?
Yeah, I think it's open source, kind of like the Spyro spaghetti engine that's being used to develop Crisis in Chronelia.
Okay. I never downloaded Back in Time. I really should because I've seen little bits of it every time. Like they'd post new things. I would see some stuff here and there, but like I would never give myself the time to like go check the project out fully. Um, because I was always doing other things. But I definitely should check it out because I've seen people play it and I've seen little things about it. It looks cool. It definitely has like a Mario Maker kind of feel to it, a little tiny bit.
Yeah.
Uh, Here we are. It's the final question. This is the one I had to change up for this era of the podcast. Let's say. Um,
Oh, yes, the $1 million question. Let's go.
the $1 million question. It's just very more of a generalized type question. We kind of touched on it actually at the beginning, but definitively, what are your thoughts on the franchise turning 30? Which like era would you say was the strongest from like the PS1 games, that middle era of like PS2 stuff, Wii, all that, Xbox 360, or like the new stuff? Like what era would you say was the strongest? And are there any other like really special memories with any of those games from throughout your time playing Crash?
Um, I would say both the early days of Crash and the modern era of Crash were the strongest Crash had ever been. Um, and it's mainly because I've seen that they kept making more games after the Insane trilogy.
Yeah, I think again it falls into like that formula. Like with what they're doing right now with all the new stuff is they're trying to kind of like strike a pretty all right balance of like, okay, we're gonna like set this in that feel of like the older games and have like the older formula, but like once in a while we'll do something new. Like for Insane, it was like the brand new levels, or bringing back like Stormy Ascent, or having Future Tense, which was a completely brand spanking new level. Um, and then the little moves Crash and Coco and them can do in Crash 4 to spice up that game's gameplay. It's still built off the bones of like the old formula, the old PS1 games, but then doing something just a little different to make it stand out and make that title unique. So
Yeah,
yeah, having the old stuff and the new stuff, the very experimental stuff was definitely that middle era, and that's where a lot of people tend to really have like genuine, keyword being genuine, critiques and little things here and there to discuss about like what they like and don't like with Crash. Because I don't really consider there's like this whole thing about like the character designs. I'm sure you've heard your share of like people complaining about, oh, Crash's colors or like his jaw, or like his eyes aren't crazy enough, like weird wacko stuff like that. Like I don't count those as like legitimate critiques. People thinking they're old school cartoonists who know about character design. I'm not going to talk like I know design when I critique things, but like I'm at least going to be fair when I judge, or at least I'll try to be as fair as I can when I judge stuff. They don't seem to, they're trying to be like, the integrity of the design is ruined because you made his jaw more rounder than the square jaw he had. I'm like, why does that matter? You don't even see his face half the time. What do you mean?
oh no, he doesn't look like a Warner Brothers character anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Despite being animated by people who actually worked on Looney Tunes CGI shorts.
exactly.
It's like, guys, do your research, Jesus. So like that stuff I don't really count, but like the most critical people got like in that middle era, the PS2 era, was definitely when Titans and all that came about. And before then, like people kind of had some things to say that were kind of critical about like Twin Sanity and stuff, but because YouTube wasn't, it was very much in its infancy. If it was even around by the time Twin Sanity actually came out, because that was '05, but like I'm not sure if it was just before or just after YouTube. Um, so like forums were around for that. So you don't really hear like when Twin Sanity came out, the people who critiqued it, they mainly did so through the forums and stuff. And people who critique it now are doing it retroactively. But the kind of critiques and stuff we're getting now, for like the new stuff, it's just very bonkers. Like I understand what they mean. It's not like I'm thinking it's utterly blasphemous. I just think it's silly to be critiquing such little things that I mean, you could make a YouTube video about if you really need to like be like, I take a look at characters each video, and for this one, yeah, Crash, there's a problem here. Like I don't know. Then I'll probably listen to you, but like when they like try to say the game's bad because Crash's eyes are too small or like whatever, it's weird. I don't get it. um, but yeah, do you have like any real like standout memories with any of the games you've played, like with Crash 4, or just having like a good time, or seeing like something in the cutscenes that made you like really happy to see, like, certain characters interact, or like, is there anything you can recall from any of those games?
I guess what I remember the most is appreciating the how fluid the animation style is and how really incredible the visuals really are. Like it really goes to show how just creative the team can be behind these games.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm trying to think of any. I mean, I've got memories with like every, with like just about every game. A little, I'm not gonna list them all, of course, but like seeing like the ad, the commercial on TV, like on Saturday mornings for like tag team racing was always, a lot of fun. And seeing the ads for Twin Sanity also. Speaking of, um, I met a lot of the ones you can find on YouTube. I remember actually seeing on TV, and it was always so hype because knowing that, I mean, it's not so much knowing you're gonna get a new Crash game every year, but like when one showed up or was announced, and around that time I was using the internet. Um, so instead of looking it up on YouTube, I actually would look it up on Wikipedia. I don't know why that was what I chose, but like I would go on Wikipedia, scroll down to like, the external links, and when you see like the list of like all the games and stuff, if I saw a new title show up somewhere in the links that I had never seen before, that was how I would get my confirmation that we had a new game coming. And that's how I found out about Titans. That's how I found out about Mind Over Mutant. Uh, and that's always gonna be special. Like whenever the time right after Wrath of Cortex, where like I was actually starting to like become aware when, at least roughly when, like a new game was either coming out or about to come out, and when I started to actually follow stuff online, um, that was like late 2000s. It was just right before the hiatus, and it was cool because even though, yeah, I also didn't really have too many friends, like at school and stuff or in the neighborhood, that actually like they would play if I asked, but I could, tell that it's just not something they'd rather be doing other things, like playing other stuff or doing other things. Um, Once in a blue moon, they'd have fun, playing Rayman, like Arena, or like CTR or something, but their tastes were different from mine. Um, but that's why I'm so glad that I'm doing content on YouTube and stuff, because through sharing my memories and stuff with Crash, we're able to connect with a bunch of other peeps and dudes, and I met all you guys, and that's why I love doing this podcast, because I love hearing everyone's beginnings, their opinions, um, and the fact that this series is 30 years old. Like, I remember trying to comprehend how we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, like 10 years ago when Crash turned 20. And I'm like, 20? Jesus. Like, you would hear, when you were a kid, you'd hear, like, you know, Star Wars, like, something on anniversary, or like the anniversary of this or whatever. And they were like older stuff from back in the day. And for anyone like your parents or whoever who grew up with those things, they were having the feeling that we're having now, but we couldn't really like feel that like totally. And the stuff that we grew up with it was still like we still actively had that thing, and it hadn't been around for like that long. But the fact I can now say that I grew up with Crash, and Crash has just turned, is about to turn 30 years old this year. I'm back to the point again where I'm struggling to comprehend it.
Yeah, it feels so weird because like it still feels like Crash just turned 20 yesterday and now he's about to turn 30. What is going on?
Yeah. Oh my God. No, you're right. Like the feeling between like when Crash first started, and two, because mind you, like for a lot of us, I don't even think you weren't even born then, were you? You're a 2000s kid, aren't
No,
you?
I
Oh
wasn't
my
even
God.
around when Crash was first released.
Oh my God. Oh no. My age is showing now. The SpongeBob connection. It's true. Oh no! I'm looking at my hand. The wrinkles are forming as I speak. Oh no! Like I was. I'm. You gotta understand. I'm older than the series. I'm just 1 year older. So like when I say I grew up with Crash, I literally grew up with the series. Again, my first game, being like 2 or 3 years old, was Crash One, followed really quickly by two and three, because they were brand new for that time. But like how you were saying, the point between like Crash first starting out and then its like 10th anniversary. Now, unfortunately, the game that came out for the 10th anniversary was Boom Bang. But like having those 10 years of like all those games is really crazy to think about. But when you're a kid, like you're dealing with school, you've got other things on your mind, so and you're playing a variety of games, you don't have too much responsibility, so like it all kind of seemed to like just flow very naturally. It didn't feel like time was going by too fast, not that it was going by too slow. The time between like 10 to 20 years felt a little quicker because of the majority of that time he wasn't even around. But when he was teased in that PlayStation 4 ad in 2013, that sure as hell left an impression. And it made us, kind of anticipate, well, what does that mean? And then as Sean Layden kept doing his freaking teases, and he wore the shirt in 2015, and then 10 years ago, E3 2016 happens, and among God of War, RE7, Death Stranding, we get Crash coming back. Like, I still remember sitting right where I am right now, freaking the hell out over it. And it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. And that was celebrating the 20th. And then from that time to now, like, yeah, the games and stuff have like slowed down. The releases have slowed down. And we're kind of like back in a little waiting period, let's say. Crash isn't dead and the franchise isn't gone or in another hiatus. Like, games take longer to make now. And again, with the whole Activision situation and Toys for Bob going indie, there's a lot of stuff in Activision's sphere that's just different now. And in following a lot of us who talk about Activision and Crash and Sparrow and how there were all the devs that were hot potatoing those franchises, and that's all kind of in the past now. Stuff is different, things are changing, so like it's gonna probably take longer, which for new games to get made, which is kind of a dual-edged sword, because for one, you have to calm a lot of those weirdos down that are gonna be like, oh, stuff it's dead, Crash is dead, but like it'll give them enough time to like actually make super quality games. Again, provided
Yeah.
like that they are given the time and the money and what have you. And that's how come I keep saying the fact that like I'm not even really trying as much as I am somewhat still trying to manifest Spyro, and I mean somewhat because I want it to happen. I have a feeling it's going to happen. I am very strongly of the belief that it will happen. I'm not peddling it right now as much in my content because well, A, I don't want to be wrong every single fucking time. But B, like, I think right now, in knowing kind of what I know behind the scenes, which isn't much, mind you, but like, in knowing there's been some development time happening that people kind of keep forgetting about. And it seems like there's been more than a year and a half, more than about 2 years now, of Twister Bob are working on their next game. That with them going indie, I think it's good that they have as much time now as they need. They're not pumping something out every year, and they're not, having a hot potato stuff. Okay, you're working on Crash, now you're working on Spyro, now you're doing Call of Duty, now you're doing this, now you're doing support work for freaking like Tony Hawk. Like, no, they can focus on one thing and polish their one thing, and when they're ready, they'll show off that thing. And
Yeah.
what do you think about that, real quick?
Um, well, I guess one final thing I can say is that now that Toys for Bob are completely independent. Whatever they make in the future, whether it's Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Skylanders, literally anything else, all I can say is let them cook.
Yeah, exactly. Let the boys cook. Let the toys for Bob cook. Whoever Bob is.
Yeah.
Oh wait, he's the dog. I forgot. There's a dog named Bob that they have. No, for real, man. Like I'm still very optimistic. I love being optimistic because when something new kind of like crops up, whether it's that like CTR Crash 4 in a cart thing or like whatever, I can usually I feel I'm pretty good at telling like when a tease is coming or when, you know, the socials just want to share art and like I'm trying to temper my expectations and I'm trying to like really, take whatever we see or whatever they say online with a grain of salt because and I've always been like that. I've always told people to be like that in my videos where you don't want to get too overexcited because again, look at this fan base. Every time they do, they will come out in troves and go, "We want to see Crash. We want to see Spyro." And when it doesn't happen, they go, "All right, pack it up. They're gone. They're done for. They're dead. It's over." And it's like, oh my god, can you like not freaking like hive mind mentality of that shit? Because you're the reason why people are like having hope, not having hope, being dragged through the mud and doing this and that, and it's not like healthy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm very optimistic, especially because big anniversaries are coming and Crashes is just about here. So I'm gonna celebrate, and the best way to do that is just to keep Crash at the forefront, keep the memory alive, keep talking about Crash, and I think this is as good a time as any to bring this podcast back because I love doing it. And every time I think, okay, I'm done with this now, this project, I think I'm gonna probably just shelve it and not probably do it ever again, and I'm perfectly fine with that. There's like a new reason to keep going, you know, and in trying to find new friends or returning friends who might want to come back on to keep talking about their experiences and all of that. I think it makes it worthwhile for me, and hopefully people who listen will not get so upset with my opinions on things, with our opinions on things, but will hopefully engage with us and join in on the conversation. I like reading comments and stuff, and hopefully this return will be a good one. And I'm just ready to see what's next for Crash, what's next for Spyro, and that's all I got. Are there any
Yeah.
last minute thoughts that you have?
Well, hopefully we'll get something in the long run, but all I can say is keep crashing.
Keep crashing. Oh my god, man! This was a really fun discussion. I enjoyed it. I'm really glad that I was able to get you on. So thanks for being here, man.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah. All right, dudes. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for watching. I don't know why you would watch this. It's just one image throughout the whole video. But if you watched it, then dadgum, I hope that image burns into your TV or your computer screen.
Thanks for staring at our faces for an hour straight if you did.
Exactly. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, for watching. Until then, I'm Mark.
I'm Travis.
There it is. And we'll see. I always leave it to see, like, will they catch on right away? But we'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.
Bye bye.